Let's see if it turned on. It looks like it's still trying. There it goes. We are being recorded. And then we will send the recording and the presentation and the documents from which we pulled the objection handling scripts from, which means you'll have a whole bunch of additional stuff in addition to what we're covering today. So.
Yeah, I don't know what the issue is, but it's not giving me, let me see here.
If you want, I'll grab it out of my email from last night.
Let me see here.
It's all on here.
Hopefully it's loading here in a minute. Is it coming? Is it loading?
It looks like it is. It looks like it is. Yes, we're here. Thank you, Jeff. Somebody is talking, and I don't want to be rude and mute everybody, but I think I'm going to have to mute you guys. And then you can unmute yourselves when you ask questions, okay? Jeff, I'll mute everybody, and then we'll unmute ourselves if you're muted.
Okay.
There we go. Jeff, unmute yourself. There you go.
All right.
All right. You want to take the lead?
Absolutely. So welcome to Overcoming Objections. Pretty straightforward. Our talk track does matter. And so knowing what to say and having a direction in which to go in with the conversation can make all the difference. And for some reason, nothing is working.
On your computer?
Hold on one second. Here we go.
There we go.
How's that?
Perfect. Our words matter. The words we choose convey our thoughts and feelings. And aside from nonverbal communication, which is huge, words are the heartbeat of our relationships. When we misuse our words or truncate our sentences to save time, we dishonor ourselves and our relationships. And I love that. I think people sometimes think, they tell us that nonverbal communication is a bigger part than your words, but your words do matter, and how you use your words matter. So that's what we're going to work on today, because a few scripts, short but sweet things that you can make your own, can make all the difference in the world in handling these communications with these sellers. So.
Yep, well said. So today we're going to focus on 3 common objections so that we often receive, and probably receive maybe sometimes daily or weekly. The first being, we want to wait. So many sellers are taking that position. We want to wait. Second is commission. Will you do it for less? And third is pricing. We want to list it for more. And then down below that just notes what an objection is. It's just an expression or feeling of disapproval or opposition or a reason for disagreeing. And really that comes from the fact that we just simply haven't got to the real problem at hand, or address the concern, or provided value in order to show them how we might be able to overcome that.
Mm-hmm. And never look at an objection as a negative, you guys. It's a chance for you and that other person to come closer together and be on the same page. None of us are able to always know what needs to be communicated 100%. And so when an objection comes up, it gets you a chance to get to the next step, right?
Yep. Okay, so let's start with we want to wait.
You want to take this one first?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll have you start with that one.
Oh, all right, I will. So how many of you have spoken to a seller? Maybe they thought they were ready to go, or for months they've been telling you they want to wait because they're just certain down the road things are going to be better, or they need to do something more before they put the house on the market. So I love this one. I love the picture of supply and demand. So here we go. For the record, I can't predict the future. However, I can determine the present, and one certainty is the value of your house today. Let me share with you some of the drawbacks of waiting. Interest rate increase. We've seen that recently, right, guys? I'm sure the amount of your payment is very important to you. Wouldn't you agree? And if you're talking to them about the buyers making offers on their house, or just them moving on to their next house, you can segue from there, right? It's important to both parties. And we can't seem to find a home we like. So we talked about the SPRP in my meeting today. We actually covered that document, finding a suitable replacement property for your seller and creating a contingency. So those things all go hand in hand. Jeff, would you like to add anything to this?
And I think I think it's exactly what you're speaking to. I think it's just really understanding what it is they're conveying as far as their concern and their message, and then us giving them options. And while we're trying to understand where it is that they're coming from, the important thing is we acknowledge that and then come back to them later and say, okay, here are some folks who have been in a similar situation, decided how to take action, and this is how they benefited from that. And I think that really helps us in helping them get to where they ultimately want to be.
And those people that want to wait, some of you have people waiting right now because they think it's only going to get better. So let me ask you, for those of you who've been in the business more than a decade, who remembers when we kept thinking it was going to keep getting better, and then within 2 weeks it was dramatically worse? It happens. It can be dramatically worse or a little bit worse or just flat, but it's going to shift and it's going to change.
Yes.
And do any of you have a crystal ball?
No one knows. It's like act
right?
now, right? Do it now, do it now.
And what we know right now is the market is a great time to sell. It may be challenging to buy, but it's a great time to sell, right? So what better than the current time and the value of the house right now to put it out there and get activity? Would you guys agree? You guys are super quiet. Nobody's
Super quiet.
Go on to the next one. You're welcome to jump in, guys, if you don't agree or you
I agree.
Okay, good. We're gonna start calling on some people later. So
I know, right?
So what are some of the benefits to selling in this market?
All right, some of the benefits to selling in this market. You guys want to jump in? We made our list. Many homes are seeing multiple offers and top dollar. You guys need to have a list of benefits in selling right now in this market, for any market, right? It's going to change depending on the market you're in. Once we have your home sold, you are then the best position to get an offer accepted. Waiting to find the right home before selling places you in an inferior negotiating position. I would hate for that to happen to you. I love that, actually. Jeff, would you like to take 3 and 4?
I actually can't. For some reason, they're so small, I cannot read them at the moment. I don't know what issue I'm having. My computer just shrunk them.
That's okay. I will do it. Oh, back up.
Whoa, back up.
Selling now allows you to take advantage of these historic rates, which over the long term can be a huge benefit. So I always laugh when buyers are going, oh, the rates went up. They're still very, very low, and they're very, very good. There are so many times in history where they've been dramatically higher and could definitely be going that direction again. So you want to be reminding them rates are great, and it is historic what we've seen over the last couple of years, and take advantage while they're here, right? Trying to time the market is never effective. We have no idea if a year from now you will be able to net the same as you will today. We have found it's far better to make decisions on fact as opposed to speculation, right? And fast forward, what is your ultimate goal? Do you see yourself living in this home 2 years from now? And if they really want to sell, they're going to say, no, I don't want to be here. I want to be wherever. Get the conversation going, get them telling you what their goals are again, because they probably told you at some point in the past if you've done your pre-listing questionnaire or you've been speaking to them for some time. Would you guys like to add anything that you would put on your list if you were providing a list of benefits to selling your home in the current market?
Yeah, I'm a seller. Why should I sell? What are the benefits? What would you suggest I do? Nothing.
Nobody would. They must be tired. They're in that afternoon lull.
Well, if they sell, I mean, selling in this market too, because it's such a robust seller's market, they have to do less. There's much less they'll have to do to satisfy a buyer. They're in the driver's seat, so.
Yep. And do they have to do as much to prepare the home to be able to get in the competitive situation in any case? Yes or no? On the front end, they really don't have to do what they would have to do in a market that shifts dramatically. So there are many benefits to putting it out there right now. Sellers in a few months may have to do those fix-up things up front, get the same kind of activity and interest that enough comes on the market. Boy, guys, we have some serious feedback.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm going to go ahead and mute the ones that I see unmuted if I hear anything. All right, Jeff, let's go to the next slide.
Let's go to commission.
Hey, Jennifer, would that be also a benefit to possibly talk about our RealSure program? if you're, and the advantages of Real Sure when you're going over timing the market right now?
It definitely would be with certain homes and certain situations. And again, we have many agents reaching out and utilizing that program to leverage more information for the seller that could make a difference. We have one right now that we got the listing primarily, I think, because the agent came to the table very prepared. I'm glad you brought it up, Kim. And she definitely used Real Sure. She had the offer in hand when she went to the listing appointment. And the client was so reassured by the fact that that would be their worst case scenario, and it was a pretty darn good offer in their minds, that they were willing to put the house on the market immediately within the week, right? And see what happens. And so she has this Real Sure offer as the backup that they could move forward with if they don't create enough activity on the house to get something better that nets them more. They were super excited about that. So if you're not using that program, Jeff, would you also encourage them in your office? I mean, I'm finding that my agents who are using it are getting some really good, warm reception from people. Just the idea.
Yeah, and I think anytime that we're out, I mean, we have to present options and opportunities, and all those things ought to be talked about.
Well, and I think it also goes back to knowing who your seller is, because if your seller is maybe someone who's in law enforcement or someone who is more private, having that Real Sure option where they don't have to put their home on the market may make them feel more comfortable about selling in this market.
Or just someone who doesn't want to have people through their house. I know a lot of people feel that others aren't as fearful now that the vaccine's out for COVID, but there are still people that don't want a boatload of people coming through their house. So if they think they can get a good enough offer with something like Real Sure, and then make the access to their home restricted, but still put it out there for a few days, and then they don't get something better, it makes them really comfortable. We have another seller in that situation. And really that's all it's about. They don't want a million people going through their house. So anyway, good idea, Kim. Anybody else have anything else they put on that list before we move on to commission, which I'm sure is like the top one of the day? No. Just keep in mind, you should have a list, and I would update it, something you can like lay in front of someone of the top 5 to 10 reasons why you think putting the house on the market today is a wise thing to do. So you can quickly run through it. It doesn't have to be off the top of your head. You literally could have it written down and be talking to them about it and say, this changes with time. When the market changes, my list will be different, but some of those things will remain the same. It's always best to deal with the known fact and not speculate.
I have something to add. That I just thought of. This is Jackie. That comes up sometimes is people don't realize that we can take the listing right then and there, but we can control when the house actually goes on the market. So, it's okay. We can take those weeks or that time. We can get this project done, and all of that. A lot of people don't realize that.
You're right. And they need to understand they're hiring you as their advisor prior to getting the house on the market to help make sure they get themselves where they need to be to best showcase their home. So I agree with you. Taking the listing immediately is the goal. And then you help work with them on when it makes sense to get it active. If there's something big that needs to be done, I agree. You do it first.
Well, and this also might be a great time to talk about what we talked about in the sales meeting as far as the seller right to secure a replacement property or the timing of what that looks like, because I think some sellers may be fearful in what happens.
Yeah, and I glossed over that. Is there anyone, a lot of these people weren't on our meeting this morning, so do we need to cover that, Jeff, do you think? Do you think that would be a good thing to cover?
I'm sure we can touch on it, definitely. I mean, it's
so if you go back one slide, one thing that you can tell the seller if they're fearful about finding a replacement property is you easily can create a contingency for them once as they're getting into escrow with a potential buyer if they'll put their house on the market, so that they have time to find something else, and it's contractual. So they have the ability to cancel on the buyer who's in escrow on their house if they create that contingency properly, if they're not able to secure the home that they want. So it's basically a CAR form, and I can pull it back up, but it's the SRPS. Is that right, guys? Help me with the acronym. I just covered it this morning, and I'm already
yes.
It's a one-page form, you guys. You should be super familiar with it. And today in this market, when you take a copy of the contract out to talk about your ability to negotiate and manage a transaction with that client, I'd be bringing a copy of that with you every time. That way, if that objection comes up, you whip that form out and say, that's why you hire someone who's an exceptional agent. Not only do I help you market your home in a way that we, if at all possible, can create that buying frenzy for your property and get you more than one offer, but when we negotiate on your behalf, we present this. And if you want to use this, this will give you the right to cancel if you're not able to secure a replacement property in whatever period of time we deem you feel you need. And then you cover that with them, and it puts them a lot more at ease. And there are so many buyers that want to get these homes right now. Most of them, if they really want the house, aren't going to say no because of that contingency, right?
Yeah.
So,
and you can use an example, and I'm big on examples because I think storytelling goes a long way. And you can use a positive example. It's like, let me share with you what recently happened in a client I just represented and how we worked through this. And so that way it gives them, not just telling them, it's basically saying somebody else went through the same experience. This is how we worked through it. This was the result. And here's the benefit.
there you go. Perfect. Great idea. Glad you guys shared that. Who was that?
It's Tara. I just was thinking of something. I'm not sure you went through it. I was thinking of the number of cash buyers out there right now as a positive.
We do have a lot of cash buyers. I think Amy Parker covered that when we had our market update with our appraiser in the office a couple of weeks ago, but it's not astronomical. It's not like half the buyers out there are cash. So yes, it's positive, but it may not be any fewer cash buyers when we go into a more, I don't know what you want to call it, a market that is different than what we have right now. What do you guys think? What are you experiencing out there? She gave us some numbers, and I was surprised the number wasn't as high as I thought it would be.
Well, we had some people share this morning that cash offers have lost out. So cash offers not foolproof.
No, the seller wants what's best for them, and that's them the most money, right? And if they think they can get it to close, they're likely not going to accept the cash offer over the one with the loan if it's a solid deal for them.
Yep. Destiny.
I was just going to say with that, I don't really think cash is king, but with people having so much equity, they're able to waive appraisal and not have to get FHA or VA loans, go conventional, and they're able to get the loans much easier, which is much better for everybody. So in that sense, this market is amazing.
Agreed.
So this is Tom Harvey. I was thinking of another situation I had about threatening to use that replacement property contingency. We kind of floated the idea. The buyers really wanted to buy the property and didn't want to have the risk of losing it. So they ended up paying just a little bit more, and they gave us 30-day free rent back. So that was
there you go.
Yeah, so these are options. Right?
Negotiating tactics. Good job, Tom. Yeah, you may have a buyer who doesn't want that contingency in place because they really want the house. But then again, you've just created additional negotiation power. That's so true, Tom. I love that story.
Well,
And it's not popular for a lot of folks, but they could also move in with family. I mean, we've had that happen in the office too, where so it wasn't their prime or their first choice, but when they took a look at how much equity they're going to gain off the sale of their home, they said, you know what, for a short time we can move in and then we'll be better positioned to get our offer accepted.
Well, and I think too, it's important for us to remember that it's not just educating our clients on what the seller contingency to find replacement property is, but it's also to help us explain and educate and get the buyer's agent or whoever the other agent is to be able to have some security and to feel confident when they're presenting it to the buyer. So your role in an escrow isn't just your client, it's also the other agent and helping them navigate through what this means to their client.
Agreed. And you know, I didn't mention one thing, and in case anybody here isn't aware of this, if you decide with the seller to use the RealSure program, remember then you are linked to utilizing the RealSure Buy program, which allows you to get pre-approved for a non-contingent purchase, even though the sale of their home has not closed yet, because they have the RealSure deal on the table and they've agreed So it's a really good deal because they can go out and start shopping and write non-contingent offers because they've got a guaranteed buyer for their house. Right, Jeff?
Yep.
That may make all the difference in them finding what they want and being able to get it. So something to think about. All right, you guys ready to move on to the next subject? Commission?
Our favorite one. Commission, will you list for less? Hell no. Next question.
Last commission. I love this subject. I don't know. I actually find it and a fun conversation. If you are totally stressed out about discussing commission with a seller, you need to make it something you're more comfortable with and work on this.
You got to expect it. You almost got to go in expecting that you're going to be asked this question. And if you're prepared for it, then you're going to be better positioned to answer it.
And all of these statements, if you were to make them to someone, and we'll go through them in a minute, Jeff and I, you want to preface it with an understanding of why they're asking the question. I always used to, Kim, pretend you're my seller. And you're like, you know what? John over at Lion came in and said, what was he going to charge?
4%.
4%. You know, Kim, I don't blame you for asking me about what I'm going to charge, because if I were sitting in your shoes and someone from a reputable company came in and offered to do the listing for 4%, I'd be asking the same question. But let me ask you something. Some agents have to be the cheapest to get the business. That is their only value proposition. The job of an exceptional agent is threefold. It's marketing, negotiation, and transaction management. So then you go into the whole negotiation thing again. If he's not able to even negotiate his own fee to what is a standard level in the industry, much less something more exceptional, how hard or how qualified is he to negotiate on your behalf for the most valuable asset you own? Is that the kind of agent you want working for you?
Those are really good points. You know, you mentioned the standard commission and the exceptional agent commission. What is the industry standard? You hear 6, you hear 5. What is the industry standard?
You know what? It isn't really an industry standard. It seems to vary between markets and areas and price points. It's kind of all over the board. But I will tell you, in Coldwell Banker, regardless of price point, it is well above 5% on a standard listing. And many of our most exceptional agents are taking listings at 6. And let me share why. You're going to find brokers who charge less, but they're less effective. So when you look at the average, people are charging for value. You know, what kind of services do you pay for? And where do you feel you choose to pay a premium in your life?
That's a great question. You know, I shop at Taylor's because it's not necessarily about the price of the products that I'm buying. It's more about the service and the quality of the items I'm buying. So, you know, I guess that makes sense to apply it towards working with a real estate agent on selling one of my biggest assets in my financial plan.
And what if you had to have a surgery? Would you base the fee? Would you want your surgeon to base their? Would you base your decision on the fee they charge or the results of track record?
No, I definitely base it on their track record and you know what their history is in the area that I'm looking to have the surgery in.
So I'm going to stop for a minute. So Kim's not supposed to be my seller. I'm supposed to be making Jeff the seller, or vice versa.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
But the point being, it's a conversation, and I think a lot of agents, after one objection and it doesn't work, when they try to handle it, go, oh, fine, I'll meet you halfway, or I'll do this, and will you list with me then? You guys need to be able to continue the conversation and go over and over and over. I'm not here to make a big deal about what I did when I was an agent, but Jeff knows I never, ever took a listing under 6% in the entire time I took listings over multiple years. And it was not standard in the industry to do that. I also did not lose very many listings, but that's because I could sit at the table and have this conversation, is what I'm going to call it, because it wasn't some kind of no, I'm not going to do that. We conversed about it, and we talked about value, and we talked about how commissions are paid, right, Jeff? And Jeff has done this for years. So Jeff, I'm paying you, Coldwell Banker's going to get 6%. And then how do you explain how commissions break down, Jeff?
So my favorite question in all this overcoming objections is I had to pull up my phone so I could actually read it. Number 5, did any of the other agents share with you how commissions work? So, and what I would do is I would show them a diagram and show them in a circle and show them how the commission is split 3 ways. So this is what you earn, and this goes to the broker, this goes to the IRS, and this is what you operate and run your business on. And I would speak to the fact and say, Jennifer, there's no way I can continue to operate my business and provide the high level of service that I do and showcase the many services that you said you like that we would effectively go to work on and marketing your home for sale and do it for less.
Well, and Jeff, does that whole thing go to Coldwell Banker and it's split that way? The whole 6%?
No, it gets split between the listing broker and the selling broker.
Well, why don't we pay the selling broker less then, the one who brings the buyer?
So are you aware that commission actually serves as incentive in marketing your home for sale?
I hadn't really thought of that. What do you mean?
So here's what I mean. I want to best position your home so that it gets the most views, so that it gets the most looks, creates the most interest, what ultimately ends up in the best result. And the best way to do that is to make sure that we're offering equal compensation or more than what you would find on some of these low commission offerings to better position your home and get a better response in the marketplace.
So I want to
Does that make
say,
sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. So you guys, first I want to say we have a fiduciary obligation as agents to show every home as if, you know, they're all equal and they all pay the same regardless of whether they're paying commission or not. I don't know if you guys know that, but even if it's paying 0 commission, if your client wants to see it and you can't get your client to pay the commission and the seller won't, we are obligated, if we have chosen to represent them, to still show that home with the same enthusiasm. However, do you believe that every agent feels that way when they run across a house that's paying a drastically or even a little bit discounted commission, or do you think we're all human?
Yeah, we're all human, and we don't want to give them a reason not to show your home.
And they may even show your home, but let me ask you something. Let's say you're, tell the seller, let's say you're an agent, you're self-employed, you pay your own health insurance. I used to always cover this. They're self-employed, they pay their own gas, they pay their own health insurance, they pay errors and emissions insurance on their business, like a surgeon. They pay all these expenses. They are taxed as self-employed people. And right now, these people bringing the buyer are having to show a ton of homes, write 1 million offers, and they're losing out a dramatic part of the time because the truth is, you're in a great position as a seller right now. There aren't that many homes on the market. But if they run across your listing and one other and their buyer's torn between the two, and the other listing's paying them 3% or 2.5%, on $700,000 and you're only paying 2%, let's calculate the difference. What is that to them? And it ends up being thousands of dollars, you guys. So you just ask the seller, if you were that person, do you think even if they didn't even realize they're doing it, do you think on some level they may subconsciously push the buyer toward the other house? You don't want to believe that would happen because we all want to be perfect.
Of course they would.
Just saying. No. And I used to talk to, I wouldn't do that. However, I know there have to be people out there that are challenged financially and really need that check, and the difference in $10,000 could push them to subconsciously make a move toward the other house. And at the end, the agent has.
Can I bring up another point?
Yes.
Sure.
This is Crystal. Also, in the midst of a transaction, there's a lot of things that come up, and if a buyer's agent feels like they're getting jaded on their commission somehow, I hate to word it that way, but I've heard a lot of people out there. They don't work as hard necessarily to keep their buyer in the deal or make sure. And I know our fiduciary duty is to make sure we're doing the right thing for our buyers. Absolutely. But there's a way of educating buyers about the buyer process. And when you're paying under commission, sometimes you just don't see that buyer's agent working as hard to keep things moving forward fluidly.
I would agree with that. I would agree.
Because the model doesn't work. And that's what we have to do. Then it's volume or it's service. And what we provide is a menu of services in order to best meet their need instead of just, hey, no, we're not a discount brokerage.
And we didn't put this on here, but I want to say something else that I know works really well. When they keep going back on the commission over and over and over, before I keep giving them every objection handler that you see in the book, these 8 plus 1 million others, I would always stop after the first 3 answers that I have. And I would say, let me ask you a question. If we took commission off the table right now, and you had to make a decision between myself and the other 2 brokerages and agents that you've interviewed, who would you choose with the commission being the same? And every single time, you guys, if you're going around and around with them, they want you. They're going to say you, but it's not the same. Okay, but you would choose me if the commission were the same, hands down. So you see that my marketing is this and this and that, right? And then you go back and you talk about what you're spending to do the extra job, the things you're doing, and what is it they don't want. They're not going to say they don't want anything because they want it all.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I can't run my business the way I do and do for you what I do for my clients without it. And then again, the job of an exceptional agent is these things. And then you go back. Jeff, do you want to pick up? Can you see it now? Are you able to see this, or you still have a computer?
I am. So yeah, so we covered, so let's see here.
Number
we
8.
talked about the surgeon number. So I actually can't see number 8. I see number 7.
Okay.
So I hope you feel confident after discussing my unique marketing approach that Coldwell Banker Realty is different than the discount brokers and worth just 1% more. I want you to know I don't charge fees, and then it cuts off.
It says, I earn them.
I earn them.
Yep. And the thing is, you guys, if you have the confidence and you know how to talk to this, you will eventually get what you earn. And if anyone here has been reading that book that we're doing, the book of the month, Never Split the Difference, that we're doing in my office this month, again, he talks about that. Don't meet them halfway if you can help it. Hold your ground, know your fee, know your worth, and continue to have the conversation. Don't leave without getting the listing, but really work on this, practice it, and practice in front of a mirror, practice with a family member or someone at the office. Because you can do this,
role
and
play
a lot of role play with someone else who isn't a real seller. And I think you're going to be shocked at how much better it goes if you do that.
Well, and I was just going to say too, if we're talking about referencing all the marketing we're doing, this is a perfect opportunity to go back and revisit listing concierge and make sure they truly understand how different our marketing package is in comparison to all of the other agents that are out there.
Yes, and then besides the marketing, we talked about negotiation and transaction management. You have a copy of the contract with you if you follow the steps we've taught in the prior sessions. You'll have that at the listing appointment. So if you start getting these commission objections and you're not getting there with marketing and having them say they would choose you if the commission was all the same, but you know it's not the same, they're charging so much less, then you go back to, let's talk about negotiation, because that's what we're sitting here doing right now. And we're talking about a difference in commission of $5,000. Let's say it's a $5,000 difference, because many times you're talking about $5,000, right? If it's one of those, $500,000 homes or lower. So then you go and you say, let's look at the contract and where I'm going to make you more than that in proper negotiations, and where someone else with one little mistake or one oversight could lose you dramatically more money. And then you start going through the areas that you've highlighted, if you've done the things we've talked about, things like the initial deposit and contingency removals in paragraph 14 and timelines and managing all of that, and repairs and how you help with that. You guys, by the time you're done having that conversation, often you're done and they will pay the extra money, but you need to be able to go that deep. Does anybody feel that with a little practice they couldn't go that deep, or do you feel like you need some extra help with that? And if you do, reach out to your manager or your coach or your mentor. That's what we're here for. It's one of the things we love to do.
I want to add into that.
Please do.
So I also, as much as I be fair to my people, I also think that when you see a logo on the buy side, I tend to feel that so very unreasonable, and I'll tell my buyer they're probably going to be on repairs and the great price of it. Probably
Destiny, you're breaking up super bad. We can't hear you.
Bummer.
I know, and I want to hear you. Because you're really good at the negotiation piece, even on the front end at your listings. I would love to hear you. Do you have a headset or something you can throw in, or all right. Can you guys hear her? Or is it just me?
Are you basically stating that if out of the gate, if you see that they're already trying to discount what it is, that we may have a hard time negotiating with these folks down the road because they may be less willing to consider any of that and kind of preparing them for what could happen down the road?
Yep.
Perfect.
That's good.
And that's true. That's a good talk track with your potential seller and with a buyer, right? Because it's true. And you should be preparing your buyers for that if you've got somebody who's discounted their listing dramatically.
And all of this, right? Sales, most people want to do what most other people are doing. And if part of our talk track is, if you're like most sellers, the reason why you decided to list and market your home for sale is not to save money. It was in order to make the most money possible so that could get you to your next goal. And I think we kind of got to keep circling back to that and then making sure we're showing them what that looks like. So they're not just focused on the dollar, they're focused on the value and the benefit.
Well, and again, when you guys go out on these appointments, you should be running MLS reports that show the list to sale ratio that these various brokerages are getting. I used to do this all the time, and we used to have what Help You Sell and some people that aren't even really prevalent anymore around. But there's a couple others, Purple, whatever their name is.
Purple.
Yeah, it was such a big deal and everybody was afraid of them. Well, they're not in the market anymore either. But when we would run those reports on these types of brokerages, and there's a number of them out there now, we would find again and again that they rarely were selling homes at the same level and price point that we were. So you guys need to run those numbers ahead of time and see what kind of data you have to take with you.
That's a great point, Jennifer. I mean, what if you were able to add on to your list here with something along the lines of, you know, the Help You Sell, the Purple Bricks, the list of discounted brokers, and be able to confidently say, you know, part of these reasons why you don't, or part of the reason why you don't see these brokerages anymore is because they're not in business. And they're not in business because their business model didn't make sense. And so do you really want to be associated with a business model that doesn't make sense?
Well, and again, if you can show them the numbers on top of that, right? Because I've had people do that in the last couple of months, and they've been able to show that the other brokerages, that those ones they were competing with were not getting sellers the same levels of sale and the same types of, you know, negotiation. They just weren't. And you could even go in and look at the detail and see what kind of concessions were made, right? We have a really good track record in that area, period. So, yeah. And I know it sounds like a lot of extra work, but if you can win a couple more listings with it and get a higher commission rate, it's worth the extra time invested. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Well, an extra 0.5% multiplied over a number of transactions in a given year over your career is a huge amount of money that'll put somebody through college. So when you start adding up those dollars, it's significant. It's not, well, no, I just had to do this to get the listing. You know, fight for it. You owe it to yourself, and you have to believe that you're capable and you're deserving of it.
You do. And sometimes it's all in your head, guys. I get this a lot. I have people, and Kimberly, you coach people, Crystal, you coach people, Jeff and I coach people. And if you think you're the only one that has that fear in your head that you're not going to get it if you have these conversations, you're not. Everybody is fearful of that. But you need to get to a level of confidence where you know you're worth it. You know the company you're with is bringing value to the table with you that is above and beyond, and be able to talk to all the things of value so that you get what you deserve. I do not think you should be losing listings, you know, that are at a reasonable commission rate and walking away from the ones that are. I do think there are some you should walk away from. That's my personal opinion. And I know Jeff believes that too. Because typically, if you have someone who really isn't willing to pay you anywhere near what you're worth, they become the biggest nightmare to work with throughout the entire deal that you've ever experienced. I have very seldom seen someone like that not be difficult throughout. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I was just going to say, it's also hard, you know, you have to also evaluate as an agent if this person is going to be so difficult and it's going to take so much of your effort to keep that one deal on track. How many other deals or how many other missed opportunities are you not able to take advantage of because you're so tied into this one escrow?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And they're going to refer you to the same type of people, and you're going to position yourself where you give all your money away. I know there's a lot of agents in the marketplace that look like they do a high end of volume, but when you actually peel back the layers, surprisingly, they don't do as well as most people think because they give all their money away.
Yep. So Tara, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to see or to ask, how you guys would bypass sellers and buyers wanting to get that topic out of the way by just making it to a topic right at the beginning of any kind of meeting and stuff. I had one seller and one buyer that aggressively just wanted to know if, and so the seller said, here it is, I want to negotiate with you about your commission. And I wanted to just discuss that a little later and stuff, and tried all I could to just get it, to be discussed at a later point. But she was being very, very consistent and wanted to discuss it right there and then. She wants to negotiate now, otherwise she's going to go talk to other people. And that was very...
Were you face to face or were you on the phone?
In that particular case, we were on the phone, but yeah, it was on the phone. But
right.
And we never negotiate on the phone.
No, but I will tell you, you never say the word no, Tara. That's going to put you into a place where they're not going to want to talk to you. So what you say is, I completely understand why you're asking, and it's a great question. I'd be asking the same thing. However, commissions, Tara, are always negotiable by law, and it is something that we do need to talk about. However, what's most important to you, I would assume, is how much money you keep in your pocket at the end of the sale, selling your home. Is that right? You want the greatest amount of money in your pocket. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
And they're going to say yes. They will never, ever, ever say no to that, Tara, ever. And you're going to say, then you need to sit down with me and I'm going to show you how that happens. And I promise you, we will discuss the negotiation of commissions at that time. Period. And if they push again, just say again. They're always negotiable by law, but I have made it a practice in my business not to discuss them over the phone. We need to meet so I can show you what I do and how I make sure you end up with the most money in your pocket at the end of the sale. Boom, you do it over and over and over. And sometimes with those kind of people, you have to say it nicely 3, 4, 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to say it with confidence, and you need to say it. And you never say, no, I'm not going to tell you, or no, I'm not going to discuss that with you, because that just puts them on the defensive, right, Jeff?
Yep.
I understand.
You just acknowledge it and recognize it and make mention of the fact that you're definitely going to be spending time discussing that. And you can also tie it into what it is that you do is you provide a full menu of services for what it is that you do. And you're going to be touching on the commission and other things that are going to be as important too. I think, yeah, you just don't want to negotiate on the phone because you can't win.
Yeah.
If you ever tell them on the phone what you charge and they're that kind of a person, you basically lost it 99% of the time at that point. You're not going to.
And they don't have to with you now.
Yeah.
So you've taken all of the leverage of setting the appointment off the table because you've given them their answer. So again, pushing for that appointment and actually setting the appointment is really important in that situation.
Yeah, let's get questions answered that I need to best service you and make sure I bring the right things to the table. I will drop off some preliminary information and I'll meet you on today's Wednesday. How does Friday look at 2 o'clock or whatever you want to do? And if that doesn't work, I can meet you on Saturday. So that's your goal, is to get the appointment. And you just keep circling back to that after telling them you understand they want to discuss this, you understand it's important to them and you don't want to waste their time. But conditions are always negotiable by law, and let's get moving so we can do that. We'd love to talk.
Yeah. And okay. Exactly the same thing with a buyer at the very beginning that wanted to have 50% of my commission. And
which is illegal.
No. Yeah.
Yes, but it actually is illegal, Tara.
It's a commission share, and you can't pay commission to somebody who doesn't have a license. It's illegal. Other than that, it's fine.
But again, you need them to sit down with you, Tara. You need to sit down with the buyer and you need to do an initial buyer interview and let them know they're not the ones paying the commission, and, and then talk about the legalities of it and how it works. And there's actually a statute with the Department of Real Estate that you could have in your little back pocket, saved to your computer, and you can show them if somebody's doing that, it's illegal. You can't pay commissions or share commissions with someone who is an unlicensed person.
Yeah.
Okay.
And those are great questions. And the whole other side to this too is being able to make sure that you're talking to enough people so that you're not so dependent upon one of these people doing something. Because if they do, great, but you're in front of enough good quality potential buyers and sellers that you're not worried about the ones who aren't ready to move forward with you.
And Terry, if you're getting those kind of people too often, we need to talk about the people you're talking to. Bye, Kim.
Bye, Kim.
Just having a friend.
Okay, pricing.
All right, so pricing. I love this. So you get to the appointment and the other agent's gone in ahead of you and has told them they can get $1 million for their $800,000 home. Does that ever happen to you guys?
No one?
Of course.
Of course.
There's Jackie's on here. I know it happens to you, Jackie, all the time. We've talked about those, right? Oh my gosh, they were told they could get 2 million, and I'm like, here.
Yes. It's
Yes.
happened recently.
It has happened recently. I think it's probably happened to every agent on this call who's been on listing appointments in the last few months. So listen, you guys, you need to take them off of the subject of what they think they want and what they think they can sell the house for, and steer them back to your market analysis and help lead them to an informed decision rather than an emotional one. And ask them if they have the information that was presented by the other agent so you can compare it. If they have it sitting right there, you've got yours. Say, you know what? I'm not infallible. No one is. Maybe there's something I've missed. Let's take a look at the market analysis I prepared on your home. And if it is dramatically different, let's discuss the other one. Right, Jeff?
Yep. And they get so focused on price, which we know it's more about where it's going to be positioned, given the current market trends and recent sales and what's active, what it's competing against.
And you need to have a good visual to talk about pricing your home effectively. That's not on this list, I don't think. I don't remember us putting it on here. But like the pricing pyramid, I personally like that one, but there are a bunch of different ones. I love the pyramid. It's super simple, right? But it shows that if you price the home just below market value, just below what the market shows it's worth, you bring the greatest amount of people to the table that are excited to look at it and potentially buy the home. And then you have a greater opportunity for competition and driving the price up in the terms and getting what you want across the board, thereby netting the most money in the end. We have so many homes that have gone, 10 to 20% over asking price right now. Those homes were not 20 or 30% overpriced necessarily. And some of these appraisals are coming in, you guys, surprisingly enough. I wasn't seeing that a month or two ago. I'm surprised at a few of them I've seen in the last couple of weeks. So don't veer away from taking a listing just based on appraisal. Just talk to the seller, explain what could happen or could go wrong, but make sure you're using a market analysis. So Jeff, you want to talk about, can you see these now? Are you able
Yep,
to
I can. So this walks you through all the steps and it actually outlines your presentation. So after covering your marketing, you could jump right into negotiating and positioning their home on the market. So number one, let's take a look at the market analysis I prepared on your home. Number two, the first section shows homes that are currently for sale in your price range. Most buyers will compare your home to these. Number three, the second section shows homes like yours that recently went under contract. Although we don't know what they sold for yet, their list price or strike price, which we're going to talk about, represents a number that caused a buyer to make an offer. The third section shows homes that have actually sold and closed. These prices represent what a buyer would be willing to pay over the past few months. And the last section is a list of homes that have failed to sell or expired from the market, which I would always encourage you to include those because there are homes even in this market that get canceled or expired or expire.
There are many of them.
Yep. These prices represent what a seller wished they could have sold for, but the buyers did not perceive these homes to be of value. And that's an easy one to say, and I don't want that to happen to you.
Based on this information, the market is suggesting, not you, a list price of, right? And then you're having that conversation. This is a perfect talk track for you to go from 1 through 6 and cover your entire CMA.
Yep.
And it sounds so professional. And if you don't feel that you present your CMA this articulately, I would work on memorizing this and going step by step and having each of these areas. How many of you feel like you have that down? And if you do, that's great. There are many agents that do this exceptionally well, but if you don't feel you do, get it down. Be exceptional in this area. Your CMA is just as important as your marketing, and the ability to help the seller see that you've done your homework and done it right and to get them on the same page with you is a big deal.
Yep.
And if somebody else has come in and tried to tell them they could sell their home for $100,000 more than you really need to start questioning, and don't put the other person down. Just say, gosh, you know what? Let's look at my numbers again. What is it? Is there a comp that you think was brought to the table that I don't have here? Let's talk about this, because again, you've got your pricing pyramid, you have your visual. That would put us way up here above the point. And we may not have barely anybody coming to the table, and it's tough to negotiate when we're priced like that. And so can you share more with me? What do you have that shows you that you're confident in that number? Because they've got to be confident.
And then you have a business decision to make. Yeah. Right. So do you take the listing, all things being equal, if they decide they like you and what it is that you're currently offering better than the previous agents that they've met with, then you have to decide as a business decision. The one stumbling block is price, and they want you to take it for 100,000 higher. You have to decide, does that make good sense? Should I do this? And then what will be my talk track, or what will be the plan in the event it doesn't sell?
So Jeff, let's talk about that. So I see a lot of successful agents making the decision to take those listings, but they do put a caveat in their listing agreement, many of them. And if you haven't done this, Jeff, you've seen this many times. I think you've probably done it. I've done it myself. You basically take the listing, you can look and see how long it's taking the average home in that price point in that area to go pending right now. So you need to get activity very quickly today, right? In almost all of these areas of the market. So you let them know, if we don't have a lot of activity in the first, whatever it is, 7 days, or in the first 6 days, we're going to have a caveat in here that we are going to reduce the house by this much, and I need your agreement. You've got to get them somewhere that's reasonable, because if you just leave it at that crazy price and you don't get activity, which we've had a couple homes like that we've listed, and other people have done it too, they just sit there. I mean, I saw a Lion listing that sat there for months, right? And it makes me wonder what they ended up finally going pending at, because nobody was getting into escrow on it. It was a beautiful home. We had one in another area without getting into where the house was. Again, the seller wanted to price it too high and we couldn't get them down. And you guys spend a lot of money and a lot of time on these. If they're going to stick with you and eventually become reasonable, great. But how much do you want to put into something if they're not going to be reasonable? Some of these houses have had multiple offers on them, and because the seller was unreasonable in their expectations, they didn't take any of them.
Yeah.
So getting them there is a big deal. Any questions, guys? No.
Hey, Jennifer, this is Tom Harvey again. We always discuss with the sellers, he said, you never want to price your house too high, because then you're going to be, as you said, dropping the price, and now you're chasing down the market. And I asked them the question, what is the first thing that you think of when the price is dropped? And the answer is always, what's wrong with the house? And I say, that's a position where you don't want to be. You don't want the public, the market to think there's something wrong with your house. So let's start with a lower price, and we can always hope for multiple offers. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then build the price back up. All right.
Well, you and Nancy work in a price point. Okay.
I'm sorry, that's a phone. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Right. You're good. You're good. Thanks for sharing. So that's exactly how you need to try to get them thinking. It isn't always possible. Sometimes you're just put in a position because some agent who even has a track record has gone in and told them something that is insane. So then again,
this market's tough for that. I mean, you could make a case where it's like, no, that's what my neighbor thought, and they put it 100,000 higher and got it. So we want to try it. And then it goes back to a business decision. You have to decide. But Jennifer's right. You could talk about that. You could add it to your listing agreement. Chris Leader has some great sheets too that we could shoot out that talk about repositioning yourself in the marketplace. You could bring that out and show them that says, hey, in the event that we find ourselves 2 weeks into the marketing of your home, that we don't have very serious interest or some offers on the table, this is what we're going to be coming back to.
And some of these pricing scripts that you see in front of you, I just love some of these. So I want to make sure that your initial price will excite the buyers strongly enough so we can generate multiple showings and hopefully produce multiple offers. I call this an impact price. I think that's great.
It's a great talk track. Yeah.
That's what they want. They want more than one person interested. So this strategy is the best way to help you net the highest possible price with the fewest days on the market. And for someone who doesn't want to have their house on the market for 2 months, that's what they want, right? They want multiple people to come through, get excited, and write some offers. Let's first look at properties similar to yours in the area currently on the market that are not selling, and then homes that have recently sold, revealing what buyers have actually paid. This goes back to kind of the prior list. You're not going over the CMA. You've already gone over it probably, but you may have to go back and forth if you've got a tough one.
Yeah.
Based on this data, where do you think we should position your home? Right? No matter what they say, you go to question 7. I love this. The market is suggesting, no matter what they say, market is suggesting an initial list price of $800,000. If this is the correct number, your home should be sold in X days, because you're going to have the days on market for the ones that are priced properly. Let's go ahead and list your home at the impact price of $800,000. By doing so, you're making a wise business decision. I love that wise decision. I used to use that a lot too. When people would make the right one, the one I wanted them to make, I'd always say that's a very wise decision. Let's do this. Let's move on.
Yeah. Would you give them just a list price or a price range better?
Depends on the property. I mean, there might be cases where you can make a case for the fact that there should be a price range, right? I'd recommend this price to this price.
If you want to get all the work done up front on the past, and you want to do this and you want to do that, you know, that would be the high end of the range. If you want to just put it on the market and see what kind of activity we can generate, and we are in that kind of a market, right? We could start here instead. I think even in this market, again, there are risks to going too high.
Absolutely.
Not every home. And it will depend on where the home is and what the demand is in that neighborhood and area. I see somebody has something in the chat. Hold on. Oh, I thought I'd already. Thank you for the great content. On my way to show a house. Fingers crossed, Crystal. Yay. Yeah, it's fun showing houses, right?
Work. All right, so from the pricing, and then this is really key, right? So time for objections. I think this is the thing that we just have to listen fully to the objection. Your first reaction when you hear it, you hear an objection, maybe to jump right in and respond immediately. Our goal is to just listen to make sure we understand the objection completely, and we can do that by repeating that and saying, so what you're saying is, so what your concern is, so what I'm hearing you state is, and then respond properly, always not being on the defensive, but just finding a means to gather our thoughts and answer the question appropriately, and then confirm we've satisfied the objection. And that can be done by simply moving on back to the next thing. So maybe you've tackled the objection, and now it's coming right back to, now all we need to do is take care of the paperwork.
So Jeff, can I back up on that too?
Yes.
So that's probably the biggest mistake I see made in all conversation, right? And if you're in a listing appointment, it's critical. That part about understanding the objection completely and repeating it back, you need to ask them once you repeat it back to them, is that right? And then you wait for them to say yes, because I'll tell you something. I worked really hard at this when I was a listing agent. And when I would ask them, I'd repeat it back to them and I would say, is that right? Did I understand that correctly? Sometimes they would say, well, no, that isn't exactly what I meant. Mm-hmm. You want them to keep re-explaining themselves until you got it right. And when they say, yes, that's right, then you say, that makes sense. I understand. And I might feel the same way if I were you, but let's go back, and then you answer it. But you've got to make sure they feel good that you have listened, you get it, and you guys are on the same page. If they feel like you just rushed to answer, again, you're losing it right there. People don't respond well to that.
Yeah, but you think of it like the feel, felt, found is really understanding how they feel. And this is what we found, and kind of walking them through that process. And that's kind of like it's the what, it's the why, and the benefit. It's really thinking that everything we do, we have to be able to explain that this is what we do, this is why we do it, and this is how you as my client benefit from that. And if we can speak to those things in a number of different areas, we help most likely meet the need of that potential buyer or seller.
Does everybody understand the feel, felt, found communication principle? It goes back a very long time.
Forever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what industry you're from. You could have worked in print sales or technology sales or service sales in a hotel. But I see another comment before I keep going. No, please explain. So good. I'm glad I'm asking. So for Jeff and I, because it's not just real estate, even before real estate, I was taught this in prior industries. So it was a really easy transition when they told me in real estate to do the same thing. I just had to learn the words around the real estate objections. But you always, when somebody has an objection, the first thing you need to do is validate that you understand how they feel. So Jeff, give me an objection.
Gosh, Jennifer, I'm just really worried about, putting my home on the market because things are just flying off and there's just nowhere for else to go.
You know what, Jeff? I understand how you feel. And if I were you, I'd probably feel the same way. So what we have found is that people who feel that way, once we present the options you have to assure you are protected and you're not going to end up homeless, then typically they end up feeling, felt found. They end up in a good position. If I'm able to show you that I can find a place for you to live and protect you and have you not end up on the streets, would that make you feel better?
Yes.
All right, and then you pull out whatever your options are for that, right? The seller in possession, the residential lease after sale, the ability to negotiate money for them to have somewhere to go, or the seller contingency to find a replacement property. But you need them to feel like you really got it. And if he came back and said, well, no, it's more than that. Oh, well, yeah, please tell me, right? And get them to keep talking. The more they explain what's bothering them, the better. And then you go back and say, I get it. I would feel the same way potentially. And many of our clients feel the same way. But what they've found is when we do these things, they feel a lot better. May I explain? Right, Jeff?
Yep. And it's like an objection that we've all had or come across, in which you probably continue to experience, is I want to think about it. I need some time to think about it. It's really, so there's something that's still there that's either we haven't spoke to or touched on, that they just can't get past. So it's our job to really dive into that and find out and say, hey, it sounds like that, or there's something we still need to discuss. Might it be my marketing, the negotiation, managing the transaction? What is it that you still have some concerns about? Would you share those with me? Because it's kind of taking them back around to hopefully leading them back to that close. And then they say it, and then you address it, and then you can go through the whole feel, felt, found, and then say, okay, great. Now all we need to do is take care of the paperwork.
So to give me that objection that you guys never make a decision the same night and you always sleep on it.
We just got to think about it. This is too big of a decision for us, and we just got to sleep on it. We're just not ready.
Jeff, I understand what you're saying. I've always felt that it's hard to make a decision when I first sat down with someone, and my husband feels the same way. But what I know and what I found in working with so many clients is typically that means there's something here that isn't 100% comfortable for you or clear. So is it the marketing? Is it an understanding of how we're going to handle the contract? Are you fearful about moving and not having somewhere to go? Can you share with me what it is you guys want to think about?
Yeah, more so that than negotiating and having somewhere to go.
All right. So you know what? Maybe spend a few more minutes on that, because if you're going to sleep on it anyway, I think it's important. We've covered everything you need to think about. Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay. Boom, boom, boom. You're back in, right?
Yep.
You're not leaving. And it may be a 3-hour listing appointment, but you're going to be surprised. A lot of times those people that want to sleep on it or think about it, they will end up signing that same night if you keep going back to find out what it is that's making them pause.
Yep. And if you leave, you may never have the opportunity again, because it could be somebody else that shows up next, or it could be somebody that's following up, or they just wake up in the morning and say, well, geez, it's, this is what we're doing. So you don't want to leave that opportunity.
Yes. And go ahead.
I have a good question from Sharon. If you want to tackle one more here, it's good.
Sure.
What should we say when a seller when they're trying to reduce the commission, saying to you, well, in this market, my home will sell in 1 day, so I really don't need all the bells and whistles on the marketing?
I love that objection. So can I take it, Jeff?
Sure.
So first of all, before I answer the objection, Jackie, how much harder is your job right now with the multiple offers and everything that happens and then keeping it together after you get an escrow than it was when things were a little more neutral? All of you who know, who've been doing deals, know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So Jackie, I completely understand what you're saying. And from your seat, I would probably feel the same way. I would be sitting there going, I'm going to pay this person so much money and my house is going to be in escrow after the first weekend, right? That's how you're feeling. Am I right?
That's kind of how I'm feeling. That's what I see.
You know what? And I don't blame you for feeling that way. I might feel the same way. But you know what we have found in this market? Two things. Number one, the amount of effort it takes to take what comes at us that first weekend or the first few days on the market and decipher through it and negotiate the best situation for you is immense. In fact, we are going to be partners. I hope you're ready to partner with me if we move forward. Are you?
Well, it sounds like you know what you're doing. I guess that is a lot of work when you get multiple offers.
There is, and you're going to need to be right in there with me, and we're going to go through it, and we're going to figure out what appears to be the best possible overall situation, price, terms, and the security that we think they'll make it to close. But the other thing is, has anybody else talked to you about how many homes are falling out of escrow in this market?
No.
You know what? I have a report here. I don't always bring it out, but since you've brought up this reason, for not paying full commission, I want to show you something, because often we end up going right back on the market, because I'm sure you've been in a situation where you've made an impulsive or quick decision to buy something because you didn't want to lose it. Has that ever happened to you before?
Yeah, I've done that.
Okay. And then after you make that decision and you pay top dollar, do you ever walk away and go, man, what did I do? I shouldn't have paid that much.
Sure.
That's happening in our market a lot. Let me show you. 27% of the homes in this particular geographic area have fallen out of escrow after going into escrow very quickly. And, we are attributing that in our industry to the fact that people are having to make very quick, without a lot of thought, decisions, and they're paying more than they were really comfortable paying, but they really want the house. And then they may get into escrow, and you as the seller, great, I got this price, I'm not doing anything either, I'm not fixing anything. And sometimes because negotiations fall apart, or just because the buyer gets into it and starts looking at the reports and things, they get cold feet. Or something happens with the loan rate before they can even get it locked and closed, and their rate goes up, and now they're paying more even than they thought they would be. And they don't stick. They walk away, and typically they walk away before they're at a point where they would lose their deposit. But some of them even walk away and they relinquish their deposit. So let me ask you something. If that were to happen to you, do you want an agent who couldn't sit here and even talk to you about commission and negotiate their own fee? Or do you want someone who's right there with you, ready to put it back on the market and has such expansive marketing? We're going to hit every possible buyer. We're going to make your home look its very best. And I'm going to help you get right back into escrow with the right person. And this time, hopefully, we're going to be able to bring it to close. I'm assuming it would be the latter. Would that be right?
Well, I definitely want someone with experience who knows what to do in every situation.
All right. Well, again, when your house falls out of escrow in 3 weeks, what happens when somebody sees a house come back on the market? What's your first thought?
What's wrong with the house?
So guess what? Who else has shown you marketing that's going to showcase your home like we are? You've already told me that. It's us, right? We're the ones.
Yes, you've got the best marketing. I can see that.
Okay, so again, it cost me thousands of dollars just to do the marketing that we're talking about here. And the difference in commission is literally just a few $1,000s. So are you ready to move forward? Because I am. I would love to represent you if you're ready to partner with me.
Okay, I'm ready.
So, and
Excellent.
you should have those numbers. You guys can go in there and you can see what has been pending and come back on the market. And the numbers are so low right now as far as how much is out there in a particular area. Should be really quick to figure out the numbers.
And in every market, they want your money. When the market's like this and stuff is selling super quick, and it's, we can't keep it on the shelves. It's like, well, gosh, you haven't had to do much and it's already in escrow. And then when the market's going the other direction and it's sliding, it's like, yeah, but I'm not making as much money as I was before. So I'm taking a haircut. So you need to take a haircut. And so that's why we just have to be always positioned to have this conversation about the commission and the dollar.
They always have a reason not to want to pay.
Always.
You're right, Jeff, when they're not
Google-
making enough because the houses
Google
aren't
tells
selling
them
fast
to.
enough. Yeah.
They go into Google and say, what should I ask an agent? One of them is commission. I mean, heck, we should go in there thinking perhaps they've talked to Redfin, and I need to be prepared.
So ask her if that was enough, or do we need to discuss it more? I know you're texting.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have something? We have a lot of material to send to you after this, so we're going to download the attendee list and we will send it out. It probably won't go out till tomorrow because we may not get the recording back right away. It takes usually an hour or more before we have the recording ready to download.
Yeah, there's an entire packet of words that work, which cover various topics, which are a great resource for you. Amy has a question.
Hi.
Hi.
Really quick, I don't want to take too much time on a personal anecdote, but I did lose a listing on commission because I refused to go down. I felt really prepared for the appointment. I think she was incredibly money conscious, and I was probably a little nervous about, really upping like the list price. We did establish with each other that all she cared about was really how much money she was going to take away, after the end. I walked away from it. I had a Remax Gold agent, took it at 4%, offered 2% to the buyer's agent. She also did a lot of work cleaning and prepping the house for market. So it was probably, not the worst case for me not to end up with it. But it's been on the market for 20 days. I've been following it daily. Do I have any ethical, legal, should I go back at all to her? What?
Not at this point.
Not right now, Amy, because it's listed, you can't, but I get your frustration. And I know which one. You mentioned this to me. It's very frustrating when this happens. And I don't know, I didn't talk about every scenario that you tried. And again, in those situations, unless they've shared with you who your competition is and you've been able to run numbers on what that person's list to sell ratio is and how well they do in getting these things sold the way that we do, right? It's hard to combat that if somebody is not really getting it. You're not going to win everything, but Amy, you do such a fantastic job, and you're still just a couple years in, right, to the business. So you've done some of these listings you've won. I've been quite impressed of what you've gone through to get them. So keep up the good work and don't let this get you down. And I would definitely keep an eye on it like you are. And as soon as you have an opening, if that thing gets withdrawn or canceled in Metro List, the split second that happens, I would be right back there at her front door.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem. And don't ever be hesitant to reach out to those people right away, because even if it's a mistake and it wasn't supposed to be withdrawn or canceled, you have every right to knock on the door when that happens in MLS. Yeah. Right, Jeff?
Yep.
Everybody else does.
All over that. Everyone else does, even before, sadly.
Yes. All right. Anybody else?
May I ask another question? I actually think that the things that we went through were also amazing. These are very typical kinds of objections. There's also a number of other objections that I get, but it often has to do with people's personality. Sometimes I feel like you have to be, as an agent, really a psychologist to be able to handle everything. And for every difficult case that I miss out on, I go through this grievance period. I go, this could have been also a potential client. That could have also been potential client. And I'm like often thinking about, I'm just thinking about situations in which like clients are extremely indecisive, or I had one person told me, you have a very strong character and so does my husband. I don't think you guys will get along. Or bunch of people who have extremely low attention span and do not want to listen, or the typical case of Mr. Know-it-all, somebody that knows everything and you do not have any chance to educate them or tell them anything about the market. Like, this is not a seller's market, it's a buyer's market. And I go, well, why do you think that's the case? Because sellers have to sell, but buyers don't have to buy, and all kinds of or people who are totally overwhelmed and they have like 100 like catalog of questions that they have because they don't know what to do FISBO, to work with Zillow, or to work with an agent, or to do this, to do that, to do that. They have all these questions, but they just do not, they can't be like vulnerable to just listen to the agent and get the answers. So there's a lot of those kinds of objections too that lead to, the not efficacy of your sale like process. And I just wondering if we can have like somebody from outside the real estate field, like people who are in sales who also have often objections with people that have these kinds of like character traits. And it's all human, we all have different character traits, but how do you handle those things and basically just have a more optimal kind of sustainability in the number of leads that you have? Because
so go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, so that's basically it.
So we don't have time to cover that whole class today, but there's a whole class
on
understanding who
Yeah.
We could do a class again on this. But again, the book we're reading this month, Tara, are you one of the people that's listening to it on audio tape, or are you reading it? If you aren't,
I haven't started doing that book yet, but I will definitely take part, and I have listened to some of his YouTube contributions.
so again, he and many, many others out there have studied how you understand the type of person and how they communicate, person that you're dealing with, and then how to adjust your interaction with them so that they're comfortable in sharing and talking with you. We can't all just be who we are, I hate to say that, and just, again, tell them how it should be. You have to get them feeling comfortable in talking to you. So using words like, can you help me better understand? How do you think I can do that if I'm only charging this and we're doing all these things? Help me to help show me how we can do this, because I'd love to work with you. And get them continue talking. They're going to talk themselves right into being more open to you, but they have to talk more than just giving you their objection, because usually it's more than what they're saying that's giving you those types of objections. Jeff, would you agree?
Yep, 100%.
And words like how and share with me, not a yes or no question, not a why won't you, but share with me how we can get here.
Yeah, more like a tell me more, because basically what you're doing is you're finding at some point there's a connection there. So something's not being answered, or perhaps it's based on an experience that they've had in the past. And so you're just trying to gather the facts so that you can help them arrive at a conclusion.
And you've got to drag it out of them, and you've got to get them talking, because there's something there that they're not sharing.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why I asked about that book. That book does a really good job of talking about, pulling this out of people and keeping them talking, and how you get to a level of communication with someone who is nothing like you, that may be hard for you to deal with, right? But you've got to do it in this kind of a business, because 75% or more of the people out there are nothing like you. That's just how it is, right? And we're all different. On this call, I'm sure we have people that fall in every category. And we have to learn.
For sure.
If you just choose to work with the people that are just like you, you're
it's a short list.
It's a short list, right? It becomes difficult.
That's exactly the point that, very often you hear in real estate people saying, and I totally disagree with that people like to work with those that they like. For me, that's the beginning of like sort of a discrimination, not racial, but discrimination in the sense that, and I really truly believe being professional means setting aside all the likes and dislikes and being able to work with everybody on a professional level, meaning you don't take things personally, and you listen well, and you are a skilled person that can solve problems. And this is what I think people should appreciate in you, rather than, what kind of character trait you have. If you can't make decisions, that's only human, that's fine. But let's just open up and see how I can help you. I'm the, expert here. But I don't know, maybe I'm too cut and dry or something, but I really, really just often sort of struggle with those. And I go through all these grievances because I have so many people I could work with, but they have all these different things that sort of stops you from, and that's what I also meant with maybe having a session on that, like some kind of a brainstorming or something, or having a salesperson from another field coming and talking to us and telling us how to, handle those kinds of objections and problems and things.
Well, and you're going to have them in this field and every other field. That's just what they are, right? It's a people communication style.
Or communication more,
Yeah, so we teach a class on that. We just haven't done it in quite some time. In fact, Kim Hicks has taught it here the past year and a half. But let me say, again, we all have to adjust and mirror other people and work to understand where they're coming from, because they aren't the ones who need to be the professional. We are. We are there to represent them. They are the customer. And so their behavior, I'm not that I expect them to be horrific, but their behavior is not something they need to modify. We need to mold to what's necessary for them to feel comfortable and to communicate with us.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah. That.
And it's hard to do.
It's hard to do, and it of course takes a lot of time, and that's why I was suggesting that book. The sympathy and stuff for different kinds of people, but it's very challenging, I think, in our job. That's
it is
one of the most challenging things.
It is. You're dealing with people who have big money on the table and a lot of emotion in many cases, and they could easily be 75% of the time a complete different communication style than you. So it's you got to be good out there. You got to learn, and we have to grow. And I had to too. It was really hard when I was new. I remember going out in some appointments, and I won't say which. There's one particular type of communicator I was very challenged with, because it couldn't be any more different than I am. But I've learned how to work with people like that and help to draw them out and get them placed, into a communication that works. But it's challenging for me to this day. I have to work really hard to suppress some of what I typically do by nature. Jeff, you have any of that going on?
No, I think we all have that going on. I think that just speaks to who we are. We're all a work in progress, and we're dealing with people who are it's up to us to just basically meet the need, find as best we can, because we're not going to exactly connect with everyone. It's just not possible.
No, it's not. So we're way past our hour. And do you guys have anything else today that you need to cover? If not, we're here to help you one-on-one. If you're not in one of our offices, you're welcome to, go to your manager. All the managers in this region are quite skilled and adept at assisting in this area. And we will send out the information behind the PowerPoint with all the additional objection handling scripts. And please do take us up on learning what to say. You only need to have a few responses. You can go back to the same ones, even in the same appointment once you've circled through them once. I remember going back to the same things again and again before someone finally said, yes, I just want to do this. Let's just do it. And often if you have a couple, I just want to share this in case you've ever not been in this situation. I swear this will happen. Usually there's only one who's really pushing to not move forward, and the other one's sitting there quietly or going in the kitchen to make a cup of tea or getting a glass of wine while the one is drilling you still, right? I mean, that's always been my experience. It's seldom both of them coming at you. Often, if you stick with it long enough and you stay calm and you're rational and you're drawing out really good points, the quiet one will speak up at some point. And I'll never forget my very first listing appointment, this happened. She turned around and she says, Earl, just stop it. Stop it. You just won't stop. Just sign the damn paperwork. You know you're going to list the house with her. Took an hour of going around and around because my manager told me, don't leave. You stay there and you work on this. This is your first appointment. You work on this and you can do this. And he was right. She made him sign it, but she was the one who never said a word. He was just like Mr. Negotiating Nightmare. My palms were sweaty. I thought I was going to be dripping out of my clothes before I left that house. So you just got to know that you can do this, guys. I have a bubble up here. What does it say? Oh, Michelle Mahalko, thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody, we're gonna say goodbye unless you have something else.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Yes, Jeff, I'll call you right after this.
Okay.
Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
All right, bye.
Bye.
I'm gonna make sure we get everybody out of the meeting because otherwise the recording or the attendee list doesn't work right. No more. There we go.